Hello everyone, Jem here, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be going over some cards that I think are neat in Aetherdrift. Aetherdrift's a pretty fun set that's coming out. I really like the racing aesthetic, even though it's not everyone's cup of tea. I think it's really nice. But anyway, for this video, I'm going to be looking at the cards that I think might get overlooked. That means I don't need to be the one to tell you that Unstoppable Plan is a good Magic card. It's just good. I'm going to be looking at the commons and uncommons that I just think are neat. We're going to do one for each color, plus one multicolored, one colorless, and one land. And let's just get right into it. My white card is Nesting Bot. Nesting Bot is a artifact creature robot for 1 white mana that has Start Your Engines, which is a new mechanic from Aetherdrift, which says if you have no speed, it starts at 1, and it increases on each of your turns when an opponent loses life, and max speed is 4. But the important bit is when this creature dies, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. And if you have max speed, it gets +1/+0. So apart from being a silly little artifact robot guy, which is already awesome, this is another in a long line of things that make a thing when they die. These sorts of cards are useful in all kinds of decks, especially like in this case, where they're artifact creatures too. Some commanders that might like this card include Gandalf the White, who cares about artifacts dying, and Teysa Karlov, who cares about both creatures dying and tokens. Now, onto the blue card. Here we have Diversion Unit, which is a 2/1 artifact creature robot for 1 blue. It has flying, and you can pay a blue to sacrifice this creature and counter target instant or sorcery spell unless the controller pays 3. Now, apart from having the saddest art and flavor text combination ever put on a Magic card, I like this little guy for a couple of reasons. One, again, he's an artifact, which is relevant in certain situations, and he's a miscast on a body, which is always something nice to hold up. This sort of effect has always been very playable with cards like Siren Storm Tamer and Mausoleum Wanderer. And while Robot isn't as notable a creature type as Pirate or Spirit might be, yet at least, looking at you, Edge of Eternities, I think that being an artifact makes this just as good as the rest of them. Now, as for some commanders this card might be good than 99 of, I could think of Ashnod the Uncaring, who would turn the 3-mana attacks into a 6-mana attacks by copying the ability, and Ashad the Lone Cyberman, which is a deck I've always wanted to build. Now for the black card, we have Packdoll Terror. Packdoll Terror is a 3/4 artifact creature toy for 3 and a black that says whenever this creature or another artifact you control enters, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Now, who remembers the reaction to Mirkwood Bats when it was first spoiled? Well, this little guy hasn't gotten a similar treatment. I think he has very similar applications. Only triggering off of artifacts and not triggering off of sacrifice does make this a little less powerful, but I think the life gain is nice enough that it's worth playing too. There's not much else to say about this guy, other that decks might want to play him include treasure decks like maybe Kalain Reclusive Painter, or food decks like Guillaume Master Chef, which might get additional triggers off the life gain. Then the red card is Outpace Oblivion. Outpace Oblivion is an enchantment for 2 and a red that starts your engines, and it also says when this enchantment enters, it deals 5 damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker, and you can pay 2 and sacrifice it to deal 2 damage to each player who doesn't have max speed. So first of all, 5 damage is not an insignificant amount of damage. There's a lot of things you can probably remove for 5 damage. Then, for the second ability, let's be real. There's not likely to be many Start Your Engine cards running around. So if you can get to max speed, you're probably going to be the only person with it, meaning you won't get damage while everyone else will. But then you might think 2 damage isn't really all that much, which is why commanders that would like this card include things like O'Hare Ash O'Neil or Ty Joaquin Perfect Shot that can increase the damage. Now for our last monocolored card, green card, is Greenbelt Guardian. Greenbelt Guardian is a 2/2 elf ranger for 1 green, and you can pay a green to give target creature trample until end of turn, and exhaust for 3 and a green, put 3 +1/+1 counters on this creature, and exhaust abilities can only be activated once. Now, I'll admit I have a bit of a bias for this card, because when I first started playing Magic, my favorite card was Elvish Herder, which is a 1-mana elf that has the same first ability. I think this sort of effect is super underrated. The ability to give a creature trample at instant speed can sometimes make blocking difficult for your opponents. As for what sort of deck might want this effect, I'd say any green stompy deck. Something like Gargos or Xenagos. Then we have our multicolored card, which is Boosted Sloop. Boosted Sloop is a 3/3 vehicle for 1 a blue and a red with Menace, and whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard a card. It has crew 1. To be honest, most of my love of this card comes from how fun the name is to say. Like boosted sloop. Me when I boost my sloop? I don't know. Whatever. Ignore that. Anyway, this doesn't have to attack itself to get the looting trigger. Whenever you attack with anything, the boosted sloop loots. Try saying that 3 times fast. I'm sure there are tons of homes this card can find, but the two that come to mind for me are Mary Reed and Anne Bonny from the Assassin's Creed set, and Captain Howler, a new card from Aetherdrift. Now we come to our colorless card, which is Roverblades. Roverblades is a 2/2 equipment vehicle for 3 mana that has double strike, equipped creature has double strike, and equip 4 and crew 2. Now I went with Roverblades just because every time I try to build an equipment deck, I'm always so annoyed by how few options there seem to be for equipments that can give double strike. Sure, there are options like Bladehold War Whip or Lizard Blades, but those are color locked to Boros and red decks, respectively. So, while the equip cost of 4 is a little high, I appreciate the new choice that we get for Voltron decks. Now, as for some commanders that might really appreciate this, we have any partner pairing with Ardent Intrepid Archaeologist, who can mitigate that 4 mana equip cost, and Kosei, Penitent Warlord, who would really like to be able to hit twice. And last but certainly not least, for our land, we have Amonkhet Raceway. Amonkhet Raceway is a land with Start Your Engines. You can tap Add Colorless, and if you have max speed, you can tap it to give target creature haste until end of turn. Now call me crazy, but I think this land is really, really good. For the price of a land drop, you have the potential to give any creature you want haste just by tapping it. Sure, you have to jump through the hoop of getting to max speed, but that's really not much of an issue if you're playing aggressively. Don't forget, if you start your engines, you can still gain another level the turn you play it. So you can play this, go to level 1, and then attack with a creature to go to level 2, as long as it connects. And then you only have 2 more turns before you reach max speed, as long as you can keep connecting with a creature or dealing damage in other ways. I think this card is good in any deck that can play aggressively and support a colorless land. So, those are my picks for cards I think might be overlooked from Aetherdrift. Is there anything I forgot, or anything that you think might also be good? Let me know down in the comments. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. This is also a reminder to follow me on Blue Sky if you haven't already for updates on videos, and to support me on Ko-Fi so you can get your names at the end of the videos like these fine folks. Links to both of those will be in the description. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!